Unit 4, Post-War Decolonization. Before 1939, the international system was characterized by European domination. World War II, however, delivered a fatal blow to European imperialism, even if globally decolonization took several decades to reach its climax. By 1970, decolonization had largely played itself out, leading to a new international system where non-whites were no longer colonial subjects, but had become sovereign citizens of independent states that represented a majority inside the United Nations. As the crown jewel of the world's most extensive empire, India's independence in 1947 unleashed powerful currents as other disaffected colonial nationalists moved to follow India's example. Subsequently, France's 1954 defeat at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu created international conditions that contributed to the rapid collapse of Europe's remaining empires. Gandhi pioneered Satyagraha, a novel strategy for gaining independence, by relentlessly attacking the moral legitimacy of European colonialism, particularly the claim that Europeans represented a civilizing force. Gandhi confronted the injustices of British rule by organizing mass campaigns of civil disobedience, or responding to brutality with nonviolence, a strategy that proved successful in mobilizing the diverse castes of Indian society while undermining British popular support for their empire. Civil disobedience was not always an option for anti-colonial movements, especially in French colonies, where armed force and martial law was often used to suppress indigenous nationalism. Fritz Fanon, Fidel Castro, and Sukarno all advocated for armed struggle to weaken the colonizing power, to intimidate their soldiers, and to raise the cost of colonial occupation until the European imperialists were exhausted and left. From India's independence in 1947 to the 1956 Suez Crisis, global momentum for decolonization increased until 1960, when decolonization reached its global climax and its epicenter shifted to sub-Saharan Africa, where European colonial administrations had made little preparation for independence. By 1970, most of sub-Saharan Africa had acquired independence, and many African socialist regimes sought to direct the state and national resources towards improving the living standards of ordinary peoples. During the first half-decade of independence, literacy rates, longevity, and the standard of living of Africans surged higher. But by the late 1960s and early 1970s, many post-colonial regimes had fallen under military dictatorship. Corruption increased, national development stalled, and living standards had stagnated. The Congo crisis well illustrates the pernicious effect of the Cold War upon the African dream for independence. Belgium actively subverted Lumumba's regime, which pulled in the Soviet Union and the United States, while Congolese civil society disintegrated. The West ultimately supported Mobutu as a strongman to keep order in the Congo, overlooking his human rights abuses and graft in favor of his anti-communism and willingness to accept Western property rights. The emerging Cold War logic dictated supporting unsavory regimes or rebel insurgents in order to advance the interests of the larger superpower bloc. Nkrumah and other disillusioned African nationalists would blame sub-Saharan Africa's post-colonial struggles on neo-colonialism. For while Europe had transformed or transferred formal sovereignty to Africans, they retained considerable ownership over infrastructure, investment capital, and international finance organizations. This gave the Western states and corporations considerable influence to dictate the course of African development in ways that profited their interests more than that of the indigenous population.